Hello, everybody. It's me, Ross, and welcome to another edition of the Kings of Anglia Fans Social, where town fans have their say on all things town. And well, the transfer window is now closed, and boy, what a transfer window it was for Ipswich Town. 19 players in, 2 on deadline day. Oh, it's just unreal. It was just, there's no more words to put into it because it was just crazy. Mark Ashton had a busy window. He started on June 1st. And now he can have a lay down and chill out for a bit, but I'm sure he's still going to be on the phones and doing different things. Today is going to be a massive show talking about the 19 signings, describing the window in 3 words, because as town fans, we normally expect a quiet day at Portman Road, but it wasn't quiet. It was very busy. I'm joined by 5 fine gentlemen from the Kings of Anglia posse to discuss the window as a whole and their favourite signings and all that sort of stuff. I'm joined by Jon, Bloomers, David, another sweet Welsh Prince 2.0, Mark Wakeley, and also good old James, who I've actually met all these guys in person, which has just been another thing that's been unreal about this summer, meeting all these guys in person for the first time or again. I'm going to go over to Jon first. And Jon, welcome back to the show as ever. It's a pleasure. The last 2 weeks has been fantastic seeing you in person. Well, no, last 3 weeks because Burton away as well. How would you describe this window for town in 3 beautiful words?
Another boring window. No, you know I'm already teasing Ross. I'm going to just say it. Rise, Sir Ashton. What a gentleman. What an absolute legend. He has done an amazing... Him and his team, I know he's been very honest with saying it's not just him, but I think he's figure-headed this recruitment, and I think he's done a splendid job. So either I love it or Rise Sir Ashton. There's my 2 different options. But mate, it's great to be back on as always. Thanks for having me on. It's great to say that I've met Bloomers, James, and David in person this season. Mark, one day soon. Obviously, I've been down to Portman Road the last couple of games, and Burton before that. So I've seen 3 out of the 4 league games. 3 out of 5 league games. Which is good for me for this point in the season. Raring to go. So excited about the rest of the season, but it's a fabulous window, isn't it? The game changer era has delivered what I didn't think the talk would actually meet up to. So fair play to them. So yeah, Rise Sir Ashton. I love it.
Brilliant. I love it as well. And Bloomers, your 3 words. We're all in the same boat. We actually haven't seen a town win, but we won't talk about that. We won't be talking about the games. It's all about this transfer window, all the signings, because there is 19 to go through. But Bloomers, over to you. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much, Ross. I saw town win this season. It was Cheltenham. But, you know, I mean, also, apologies for those of you that like to view my face, but I'm actually going to just stop my camera and I'm going to get a disembodied voice to see if my internet holds out any better. So I am here. I just can't put my hand up, but we'll get past that. Also, great to see David and Jon and Ross in person so far this season. It's been lovely. My 3 words, I'm cheating a little bit here. Ton of players. So we've got more signings than anyone else in the Football League this transfer window. And you can only say that it's primarily down to one gentleman getting them in. And for the names alone and the now quality of squad we have in League One, Mark Ashton should only be applauded. And there is nothing to suggest that we will not compete when you look at the team. Obviously, it doesn't always translate to the pitch as what it does on paper. One thing that's really struck me, however, in everyone's 99% of Ipswich fans' appraisals of Mark Ashton is that, yes, he's done absolutely fantastically, but you hear so many Bristol City fans on Twitter and to a lesser extent Watford fans saying pretty much the polar opposite of what you could say about Mark Ashton from Ipswich fans. Now, I can only judge so far what he's done by bringing in the caliber of player we have, and he should be absolutely 100% commended on that. And it's so good to have someone at the focal point of a football club basically communicating with fans. I'm being a massive pessimist by having a nagging voice that makes me think, well, there's no smoke without fire. And if you look over the Severn Bridge, it seems like half of Bristol's on fire. So I don't know, and I'm sure David or Mark or James can elaborate on this, but all I would say is well done, Mark Ashton. Fantastic for all the players we've got in. Hopefully we're going to see this stuff on the pitch. But what does people think about someone or some people's thoughts at Watford and very specifically at Bristol City?
Okay, I'll have to admit that was very weird just hearing Bloomers without his face talking, just seeing his mouth. If you're watching this on video, I'm sure you're the same. I'm sure the other guys, but it's always good, Bloomers. You always say some good stuff. And yeah, I'm going to sort of take over that question to Mark quickly and also get his thoughts, his 3 words to describe the window. Yeah, what echo what Bloomers said, I'm sure.
Okay, well, my 3 words are seamless, ambitious and professional. And the first and the third go together. And I echo what Jon and Bloomers have said. The way that Town have conducted this transfer window has been terrific. I mean, I'm used to transfer windows as a Town fan. It's sort of a death by 1,000 sighs, watching the other team sign players, and then we appear with Ollie Hawkins at the transfer window, and that's it, But this has been quite incredible, and considering that he's dealing with, by his own admission, a very small or almost non-existent recruitment team, he must have really pulled some strings to get those players in. And ambitious because, there's a lot of players there who could quite comfortably be playing in the Championship, but they've agreed to come and play for a League One side, and a League One side currently in the relegation zone. Some of them have apparently taken a wage cut to come and join us. So in terms of what we expected and what was delivered, I think we can only be delighted. The question is now, have we got the capability to turn that band of very, very talented players into a winning team?
And I'm gonna bring us more over today because I'm sure he's got more of a. Well, I'm just interested to see what he's going to say about the Mark Ashton situation with Bristol City and Watford, as Bloom has said. But also your 3 words to describe the window, and also that other question.
The 3 words. Delighted to be back as well. It's been a while.
Oh yeah, welcome back. Sorry.
Yeah,
very rude of me.
I vanished to Cornwall and then sort of was out in the cold. It's a bit like sort of Matteo Sereni saying I want the week off, isn't it? My 3 are organised, strategic, and exciting. And the third one is from our point of view, and I'm sure from Paul Cook as well. I'm sure he's bouncing around his around his office, but the organised and the strategic is actually the important bit. And what impresses me is the fact that it's for years what we've seen is it's the middle of August, we need to sign somebody, and you go and end up with Ollie Hawkins. And either that or there's a transfer window coming up and you end up with Jordan Graham and Tayan Eden coming in on loan when you've already got players in those positions, but you've got nobody out on the left wing. So we've got 8 left backs and no left wingers or something. And it's been a scattergun approach to, somebody phoned me and said he can come in, we'll have him. Whereas this time it's been, we need that. We're going to go and get it. And that's what I like, including, I have to say, the way in which Jacob's situation, okay, he's a good player, we want him. Oh no, actually, we want him more. Put him one side, because there's sentiment doesn't come into it on that, does it? It's about the best player for that position, and if something else comes up that's better, you move around, don't you? So that sort of strategy and the organisation is hugely important and the most impressive thing from my side. I have to say that a lot of the players I've had to do the research on afterwards, because unlike some people on the pod rota, I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge of other clubs particularly, because it's like this fortnight now. I know other people, and I'm sure there'll be somebody in a discussion somewhere will slap my hand and say there is football because there's internationals. That's not real football. Real football takes place at Portman Road. Everything else is plastic. So if I don't see them at Portman Road, or when I'm watching us away, they don't count as players in my register of interest, really. But so I haven't been able to get excited in that way that other people have. I'm impressed with things, and then I've looked things up, but particularly when you've got someone like Morsey, where Middlesbrough fans are really quite pissed off that he's gone. You know, and you saw when we were on our club's feed and stuff, the comments underneath the Instagram post from Borough fans going, "You've got a player there, and why have we let him go?" That's always a good marker that you've got a quality player if other fans don't want them to go. On Ashton, I don't know a huge amount. What I've heard is that the Bristol thing partly comes down to buying good players and then selling them on for a profit. And there's an element, I think, where they saw a side being built and then they get sold, and then you sign somebody else and he gets sold, and they see it as being money making rather than ambition. So I think that's part of it. And I was reading a whole thread yesterday, I think, where a lot of it comes down to they didn't appoint an external candidate. They spent weeks and weeks and weeks fanning around to appoint a new manager, and then they appointed from within. And I think a lot of Bristol fans are really quite annoyed by that process. So I think that's it. Yeah. For Bristol. For Watford, I've read between the lines, and a lot of that comes down to communication. And Ashton's talked about learning from mistakes he's made at different clubs and not repeating them. And from what I understand, that Watford fans had an issue with his lack of communication, or a slightly abrasive style of communication at times, which we're not seeing. So if he has talked about the fact that he's made mistakes at clubs, and right back when he gave his first interview, I thought, oh yeah, that'll be that, because he alluded to it, if not spoke directly about it in that first interview. So it's communication at Watford, as I understand it, and just fans getting the hump because you're a selling club and you're sitting in mid-table and in Championship all the time, broadly.
Definitely. And I'll go over to John in a sec, but of course we've got to introduce the final man that is joining us. And James, well, what a window it's been. Welcome back to the show. Once again, it was fantastic to meet you in person for the very first time. And yeah, 3 words to describe this unbelievable window. Mark Ashton, what a man. And yeah.
So thanks very much, Ross. And yeah, pleasure to meet a bunch of you after the game the other week. It was brilliant. I'll just touch on that Mark Ashton bit myself with Bristol City. So I'm still tentatively, or got a bit of a connection with the Southwest region. I know a lot of people down there from when I went to university in Bath, and I'm still involved with the Southwest group down there. So there's some hybrid Ipswich Bristol fans, or maybe people that take an interest in both clubs. So there has been talk on the WhatsApp group that we have, and quite a lot have been saying that Steve Lansdowne, who's Bristol's owner, he doesn't really like how much you have to spend in football to compete. So that is why they've kind of become that selling club. And I think the fans are got a little bit fed up with that, which from Mark Ashton's point of view, he's been given the brief that, you can't spend until you've received the funds yourself. Whereas this season at Ipswich, it seems to be that, we have a larger wage budget than most of the rest of the league. I know we can debate whether we recoup that wage budget by getting rid of all of our squad already, but I think we'll probably find that our wage budget is going to be significantly higher than it was last season. So I think it's the fact that there's been a little bit more of a blank checkbook at Ipswich this season, because we're focusing so much on building a squad for this league and hopefully the league above. Whereas at Bristol, I think Steve Lansdowne focuses more on like the Bristol project as a whole. They have the Bristol Bears down there that play at Ashton Gate as well. I think they've got the basketball team as there, and Ashton Gate's in a bit of an arena as well. So I think Steve Lansdowne treats it much more of a business rather than the football club, as promoting it in a slightly different way to what the project we're doing here this season. I'll be quick on my 3 words. So my 3 words are different from everybody else's, which is brilliant. First word, optimistic. If you can't be optimistic as an Ipswich Town fan at the moment, then I think you must be living in a bit of a cave. We have brought in some on paper outstanding players, and also seeing some of them in person have already impressed me. So that is brilliant. Second word, surprising. And this is just because normally with Ipswich, you see Ipswich Town linked with this player, and then the rumour goes away, and you just don't bring them in. I think Mark might have been saying something of a similar ilk earlier, but this time it seems that we've linked with a player, and the deal's got over the line. Or I think there's been 4 or 5 good players which we haven't brought in, but if we haven't brought those players in, we've brought one of equally good stature in that position. So it's just been a really good window for that. And the third one is overwhelming. And this is just a bit of a feeling I had after my first game a couple of weeks ago when I went to Portman Road. And I hadn't got to grips with all the squad. I didn't know what the pros and cons of all the players were yet. I didn't know how they were going to work together or play together. Some players' quirks haven't come out in the wash yet. Like we're still struggling to see the best of some players. We have seen the best of some other players. So it's just a bit overwhelming. Normally in a season, you get, say, 4 or 5 key signings that go into the first team, and then you can focus on them in the game because you know what your stalwarts are going to do. But at Ipswich, we don't have any stalwart players anymore. They've all gone. So literally, we are blank slate, and it's the whole squad, which is basically we have to pick what this player's good at, what this player's good at. Like how does Burgess play like alongside Wolfenden, for example? Like can Piggott play up front on his own? Because at the moment it hasn't been his best position, and Wimbledon fans have been saying that he's better up front in a 2. So is there a way that we can make him play in a up front on his own? So it's quirks like this which we need to find out, and obviously that's a manager's job as well. But for me as a fan, that's pretty overwhelming for now. You're on mute, Ross.
Oh, God's sake. Amateur hour. What I was saying is, as you said, we've got 19 players to find out about and know what they're good at, what they're bad at. Hopefully not too many bad. And just, everyone's in the same boat and that sort of thing. Can I just do an announcement? Bloomers is gone, unfortunately. His internet wasn't able to stay with us, but he was able to at least bring in a bit of his thoughts. But it's always good to have Bloomers in. But yeah, we're going to carry on without him. And John, you had your hand up earlier, so take it away, and then we'll get into the 19 signings.
Yeah, just a couple of points, Ross. Just to add, one, sitting and listening to what all the guys have already contributed makes me realise, or reminds me, I should say, not realise, because I've known it for ages, why I love being part of this, and also why I love listening to it when I'm not involved, because lots of good things have been said. I can really go, oh yeah, I've thought that, or yeah, I agree that you just summed up something else that's been thought about before, and some really good takes on things. And I think we're all at that point where it's been quite remarkable, hasn't it? It's been exciting. And now we really need to see how that develops, because it's been that exciting period. It's like we've had Christmas Eve, if you like, and it's Christmas Day. We've opened our presents, and now we need to play with them, and we need to see which ones don't fall apart and which ones are still our favourites in a few weeks' time, I suppose. So just talking about Mark Ashton, I'm sure lots of the folks listening to the pod will have seen the interview that the club put out yesterday with Ashton about, I think it was about 9 o'clock last night or something like that. I tweeted out about him being a formidable, articulate and passionate man, the man with the plan. He comes at, like, if he has had problems with communication in the past, my God, he's learnt his lesson, because he is excellent with communication. He's humble, he's modest, he's bang on with his articulation about points. He's really focused, and I think, that's a sign of strength. I would like to think I'm a better professional and hopefully a better person than I was 5 years ago or 10 years ago, because you try to improve, you try to get better. I don't believe anybody gets up and looks at themselves in the mirror and says, I'm going to be a bit worse than I was yesterday. I just don't think that's the attitude people have. But to have that drive to be better, I think he's got that hunger. He wants to be a success at Ipswich Town. And at one point in the interview, he turned around and he had that, like, the hairs on the back of his neck moment again, saying Portman Road. That is infectious, even through a pre-recorded video. So imagine he gets you in the room as a player and he's selling you his vision for the club as a figurehead for the owners and the club. It's not just him, but he's an impressive individual. And I think, if he's made some mistakes in the past, I have. I'm sure all of us admit it. I made mistakes earlier on today, no doubt. But, about trying to improve, trying to be the best. And, he's asked for patience. He's asked for time. I think we've got to give him that because, do you know what? I've got a bit of I think Brett Johnson really impressed me, as did Michael O'Leary. And so did Burke Bakai and Mark Detmer. But we heard more from Brett originally. But since Ashton has taken the floor, he's communicated on time. He's let us know key things. He said thank you for the fans. He's been present. I mean, this is what we've been lacking for 13 years, isn't it? And, I remember being at Newcastle away when Sheepshanks came and apologised at half-time. I think we're 4-0 down, and he walked around and shook hands and said, listen, it's going to get better. It didn't actually. But at least he fronted it up and showed up, which is a big sign. I really like Mark Ashton. So if he has made mistakes, he's learned from them. And I think we can only take him as a CEO on what we're seeing. And he has delivered what the club wanted, what the owner said. Go on, Cook's wanting this, and this. We're backing Cook, so your job is to make this happen. And my God, he has. I think we can all probably question Aluko, and we'll come on to that, no doubt. But, other than that, I mean, I hadn't really heard of Penny before. I had to read up about him. But, he's not let us down yet. I think Coulson's an upgrade, don't get me wrong. But, are they both better than Miles Kenlock and Stephen Ward? Yes, they are. So, if you look at all that, it's all upgrades all over the pitch, isn't it? And they've done that for us. So the least we can do at this exciting time, yes, we want instant results. Yes, we were gutted after the last few games. Yes, we wanted to be in the top half of the table at minimum. Yes, we'd love to be sitting top or second or third or whatever. But they've done everything they've said they're going to do so far. Probably more, because sometimes you can come in and say, we're going to get rid of the whole squad, and you see 4 or 5 signings and say we need another few windows. They've made 19. It's bonkers. They've cleared out the 7 loans, loaned out some more players, and got rid of 20-odd pros as well. I mean, it's amazing. So we have to give them that time. And it's credit to Ashton and his team, but also I'm going to stand up for Paul Cook a little bit. And lots of people have been questioning him, not necessarily saying he should be sacked, or some people been asking if he's the right man for the job and that kind of thing. All I would say is people like Sam Morsey and Evans, although I know the jury's definitely a little bit more skeptical about Evans's performance at the moment. But you look at something like Morsey dropping down from Middlesbrough, started 3 of their first 4 games. He hasn't come because Mark Ashton sold him the plan. He's become because he wants to be under Paul Cook again. So Cook deserves a bit of credit in that as well, because we've got to look at what the club is selling. It's not just Ashton, it's not just the owners. Some of those players have played for Cook before and are saying, I want to play for him again. He gets the best out of me and the best of my teammates. So I think Cook deserves a bit of credit within there as well, because I think if Cook wasn't our manager, we wouldn't have signed Morsey as an example.
Wow. Well said as ever, John. That was fantastic. David, I saw you put your hand up. I just want to quickly rattle out the 19 players. I'm sure a lot of people already know, but I just thought I'd rattle them out quickly, and then I'll go over to you, David. I'm sure you're going to pick up some points that John said. But bear with me. I may pronounce one of the players' names, and I'm sure you will guess who that is, although I may even pronounce another name. You never know. But yes, Wes Burns, Lee Evans, Rakeem Harper, Macaulay Bonne, Vladklav Halanki, probably completely butchered that, but whatever. Matt Penny, Joe Piggott, Scott Fraser, George Emerson, Connor Chaplin, Louis Barry, Sonny Aluko, Carl Edwards, Hayden Coulson, Cameron Burgess, Tom Carroll, Christian Walton, Bersant Selena, and Sam Morsey. And Bree Ross. I don't think I've missed a player. If I have, was that 19?
I wasn't counting.
Oh,
yes,
no.
it was.
What, okay. But yeah, 19, unbelievable. Yeah. Unbelievable. But yeah, David, over to you then. I'm sure you've got a few things you want to point out what John said.
Picking up what John said, yeah, it's the ambition as well, because we're looking at championship players there. And when we got relegated, we didn't have that level of ambition. When the whole shit show of the last 12, 18 months came along, and I was saying on this pod, that last close season, we had an opportunity because a lot of clubs have lost the finance completely. And because we had the backing of Evans, we weren't in such a horrendous position. And we had a large supporter base with season tickets and things, and we should have been picking up free transfers and things like that other people had released, because so many players got released and we didn't. There's a huge amount of ambition here. We're looking at a squad now, which broadly speaking, you can see competing. Certainly lower mid-table, if not mid-table, and without any additions, you could see this squad now holding its own in the Championship. And you've got some key positions there, the Morseys, the Burgesses and stuff, which you can genuinely see as being the core of a side which could be looking top half of the table with some other additions. So the ambition there is something which I think has been lacking for a long time. Since probably the days of signing Lee Martin, which was ambitious, but not entirely focused ambition. When you're spending the money they did on people like Lee Martin, there was ambition there. It was just sort of not particularly focused. As far as Ashton, it's like players. Ashton comes in and regardless of what he's done before, you judge him what he's doing now. That's the thing, and it's the same as a player. I have been, and I will be, hugely critical later on of Aluko. But if he takes the field against Bolton, I'm completely on his side. I want him to have a good game. Because you cross the line and he's our player and you want him to do well. That applied to Jonathan Douglas, all the way through. It doesn't matter how much you've been a headless chick in the previous 25 games. You turn out and you want him to turn it round. You want him to become a good player for you. And that applies to Ashton. You judge what's in front of you. If you were a rubbish player for your previous club, but our manager sees something in you, signs you, and you become a god, cool. That's it, isn't it? If you're gutted that a player leaves and then the club they go to and he's awful, they go, why did we sign him? Then that's just, he doesn't fit at that club. And that's the same with Ashton. What we are seeing is that he's a quality chief executive who's doing a very, very good job and has got that ambition. So he might or might not have done a decent job at Bristol, given the terms of reference he had, and the fans may not know the terms of reference he had. So they might be sort of coming at it from a different angle to what he was doing. But from where we are, he's doing his job and he's doing it well, and that's all you can judge him on.
Ross on mute again, so I'm just going to take over for a second.
For God's sake. But yeah, I was going to say, I was going to go over to Mark, but I know you had your hand up, James. So we'll get to you, Mark, very soon, and we'll start off with your thoughts on the 19 signings. But James, I'm sure you're going to echo what David said. But sorry again.
Just a quick one, and it was just a tweet I saw actually yesterday, and it was from Hayden Coulson's father, and he was saying that he was really impressed with the business Ipswich have done, as we all have been, and he was just saying pretty much just bear with people, because the things we don't think about is that we've brought in 19 players and there's not really been any kind of community for them. There's been nobody almost. These players are going to have to make their own community. And what Steve Coulson was saying in his tweet was that they're all in hotels. They haven't found their feet yet. They've all been away from their friends and family. Not a lot of them would have had time to settle in Ipswich. And now they're expected to go on a pitch and play their best football like they did in the Championship or wherever most of the players. So I think that's just something we need to be cognizant of, is that most of these players probably don't have permanent housing at the moment. They're probably still feeling like it's a big change, a lot of transition. He was saying in the tweet thread that I was reading that he hasn't seen Hayden for 5 weeks, and he said that they're really close family normally. So, it's just big change for all these players, and we've just got to think of that human side of it as well. And hopefully with time, I know it's a bit of a cliche, but it's going to come good, because they're going to get their community, they're going to get the bonds together, they're going to get the joking and laughing as mates, hopefully as teammates and as friends, and it will work brilliantly.
As you said, some people don't understand that side. They are still human beings, and they do unfortunately have to stay in hotels and go to train, and then they go back to the hotel. And of course, during COVID, no one was able to do anything. But luckily now we're back and out and about doing things. Well then, Mark, let's get right into the 19 signings. Your pick of the bunch, your best of the signings, and then maybe other bits and bobs you want to throw at us.
Well, I completely agree with James. That relocation is a big thing that we have to take into consideration. I mean, these are some of these players will be traveling vast distances to a part of the world they've probably never been to before, and they've got to relocate with their families, find accommodation. If they've got children, their children have got to start new schools, and these are all added pressures. And we mustn't forget that. There's also the fact they've got to find their role within the group and get to know each other and get to know the system, how Paul Cook wants to play and adapt to it. And it's a lot of change, and it doesn't happen overnight. And that's going to take a while for these guys to gel off the field, before perhaps they can start gelling on the field. So, yeah, there's a lot of work to be done there, obviously. In terms of the best signings, blimey, where do you start? I mean, goodness gracious me, compared to what we've been used to over the last few years, I mean, every one of them is pretty stellar compared to last year and the year before, really. There's a few that, really you have to take notice of. I mean, Edwards, for goodness sake, where on earth did we pluck him from? Really, I mean, he looks too good to be playing at this level. The fact that he's agreed to come here and he agreed to come here so quickly, is staggering. Macaulay Bonne, I'm delighted he's on loan. I love the season, the story. I love the passion. I hope to God he scores a bucket load of goals when we sign him up permanently when we go into the Championship, because I think that would be a dream. I'd like to see Macaulay Bonne score the winner in the playoff at Wembley. I think that would just be the icing, the cherry on top of the cake. I think it would be great. In terms of the time scale, I think probably the best may well have come last. I mean, Morsey, I think, is, from what I've seen so far, we look light in the middle of the field. We look like we need somebody who can really get hold of the game, can be robust, put themselves about, slow things down, speed things up, bark some orders out, take control of the game, be a bit more physical, because you need to be in League One. And Harper, despite his stature, tends to get knocked off the ball a little too easily for my liking. And Evans hasn't been as consistent as perhaps he could be. So Morsey, I think, is a very astute signing. I think he may well be that final piece of the jigsaw that just knits everything together, that allows other players to play and express themselves and covers the yards, that does the dirty work that maybe gets unseen. I've read some quotes from Middlesbrough fans apparently who say he's a frenetic ball of energy. He covers every blade of grass. He really is. He's a bit like a poor man's N'Golo Kante. So, I'll take that. Selena, delighted to have him back. I hope that he comes back as the kind of player that we know he has the potential to be. I know he's been unwell. I'm a little bit unsure as to where he's going to play. I'm guessing he's going to play just behind the striker because he's been playing there in France, and he's certainly got the capability to do that. But I mean, if he's anything like the player that we saw when he was on loan, my goodness, what is he going to do at League One if he's on top form? He's going to be so exciting to watch. And then, again, key, I think the goalkeeper was a really astute signing. I think if he's as good as I think he could be, and I know there are some questions about his kicking. Apparently, he's not, may not be great, but apparently he does command his area. He's a big lad. I've watched Ladley a couple of times, and I don't think that he instills a lot of confidence in the back four, coming for crosses and dominating his box as you'd like him to do. I hope that this provides a little bit of stability and that confidence for the back four and the two centre halves. But I mean, I picked out a few there, but there's a lot more. I'd love to see what Chaplin can do. He's a prospect. Harper, I think, could be terrific. Where's Burns? My goodness, he's Welsh, he's fast. God, blimey, he's like me 47 years ago. They're all an upgrade. Considering what we were looking at last year, they are all an upgrade. And as David said, they could, on paper, comfortably hold their own at the lower end or the mid-table in the Championship. That's the calibre of players we've got. I would have loved to have been locked in a room with Mr. Ashton when he gives his spiel to these players, because I'd love to know what he says. He's a very, very persuasive and articulate gentleman. And I think to get some of these players to come here, and if they've taken a wage cut, he must have sold them a really, really good story. I would have loved to hear it. But yeah, those are my highlights. But I could go on. There's so many.
Yes, you can't go through them all. You mentioned David, so I'll quickly segue into David. Sorry, John, I know you're probably bursting to say your say, but David, we spoke earlier in the afternoon. If you subscribe to us on YouTube, you'll see the video of David and Liam reviewing the window, and he mentioned different players. He got his hairy ass defender in Cameron Burgess.
He needs to grow a beard, though.
He needs beard, yeah. At the moment, he's very clean shaven. I think he may stay that way. But David, your picks of your favourite signings and and whatnot.
Well, mine. I said this earlier on. Is broadly at the back. It's like everyone's getting all unnecessary about all our attacking options and things. And I had a question up when they signed about Barry and Aluko. I'm not sure about how necessary they are, but we'll see. My ones are Coulson, who I've liked for a long time, and I know people will sort of throw their heads back, but I've liked him on Football Manager for a long time. I've signed him before. He's a quality player, and I'm really pleased we got him. When we were rumoured, it was one of those I was like, yeah, that's the sort of player you want. Burgess, he's a 9 out of 10 central defender at the moment for me. If he grows a beard, we'll go to 10. But your big, your hairy ass proper defender needs a big beard as well. And Morsey, because if you're looking at I've said it loads of times, and I think Stu said it as well. If you've got those fullbacks pushing forwards, effectively complete wingbacks, and they're providing the width because they're not wingers up front, they're inside forwards, they're cutting in. So you're getting your width from your fullbacks, and then really wingbacks. You need somebody in the centre of the park to drop into the whole of the centre of defence. Then your centre backs can split wide, and you've got a back three. It covers the width of the pitch, and it's been really interesting watching the way in which Penny and then Coulson have tucked in really narrow, and we've conceded that bit of the pitch out towards the touchline. We've just gone, oh, okay, you can fanny around it over there because we've got players in the box who are going to put the block in or get the head on it. And that if you've got two centre backs and then somebody drops in the middle, you can do that even if your fullbacks are up the pitch. So it's obviously a strategy, and I like it, but you've got to have that. And if you had a flat back four, Evans and Harper could be an awesome midfield. But if you're looking at the fullbacks getting forward, there's not that heft in there. There's nobody who's just dropping back as a third centre half when they need to. We could have done for 5 games. We could have done with Scoos, because Scoos could have done that job really nicely for the first 5 games before Morsey came in. So Morsey's excites me, Burgess and Coulson. Not very exciting ones, I know, because they're the workhorses, but they're the one. There's an art form to defence. I really like that sort of, and the aggression. Just hit it. The whole John Walk thing. Walkie's going to get you. That's one of the things I loved about him. Yes, he's goal scoring, but it's also the aggression that he used to bring to that game, and the determination that you're not going to get past us. And that's what I like about that type of player there, which is what I see with Coulson, Burgess, and Morsey. Selena's an odd one. If we get the Selena of the first half of the season, when he was on loan, cool. He faded. Now, that's partly because Mick was being an arse with him. And, well, everybody else likes him, so I'm not going to play him thing. But also, Mick tried to convert him to make him work hard and track back. And he wasn't any good at it. What you got was somebody who couldn't track back properly, but also you lost all the attacking side of the game. So my memory of Selena is more mixed than a lot of people's is because he's a fantastic attacking player, but the player we saw in the second half of the season wasn't a patch on the one we saw in the first half. Fraser learned that side of the game and he could do both. Maitland-Niles couldn't, and nor could Selena. So if he's playing in the number 10 role, then that's a different kettle of fish altogether. But if we see him as an attacking player, yeah, and it's League One and he's going to potentially rip it up. But it depends on who he is now, because he was very exciting when he first signed for us last time, and he faded, in my opinion. And that was down to the way in which Mick wanted him to play. And it sort of destroyed some of the natural skill he brought to the game. My last point before I think is about passion. And John was saying about giving people time, and I'm completely with John. Yeah, patience is a virtue. I'm fully appreciative of patience. However, I will give people grief straight after a game. I went on a rant after the game, and a lot of people may have seen that on game day. I got some pushback for it on Twitter, which is fair enough. I spoke loudly, and that's what happens. And I know my Peterborough rant has reappeared again for some obscure reason, best known to itself. Why? It's years ago. But when you speak after the game, then you're in that moment, and I tweeted after the game. I sort of said rationality and I aren't best friends immediately after a match, and it doesn't matter whether you've won 1-0, 2-1, 5-0. Then everything's brilliant and it's the greatest football team ever. You concede a 95th minute goal, and the world's going to hell in a handcart. And I'm not going to apologise for that passion, and I'm not going to apologise for giving people grief or calling people out who I don't think have performed on that day. But I do agree with John that you need to have patience, and it will come together because you need those partnerships. But equally, then in the heat of the moment, when we've just conceded a 95th minute goal, then by bugger am I pissed off.
Oh, always well said, David. Always well said. And you mentioned John, and I know John has been bursting to say his take on all the signings. We haven't got all night, John, so we're not going to mention all 19, but I'm sure you're going to say some great stuff on the ones that you've liked so far.
Yeah, well, both David and Mark, and I'm sure James to follow, are going to say really sensible things, and I'll try not to repeat. But basically, I could agree exactly with what Mark said, and then David's I could say that, so I'll try to say something different. But initially, my favourite signing before the actual as the season started, on paper was going to be Evans. I've got to be honest, I've been a little bit disappointed. I didn't see the pre-season, I didn't see the Morecambe game where he played well. I've seen the last three, the Burton, Plastic Dons and Real Dons game, and I think he's made some mistakes and they've led to goals and that kind of thing. So I feel a bit foolish, but I'm going to stand by the player I was quite excited about. One of our KOA Fans Social regulars, Brad, bigged Evans up big time about being this really good passer of the ball, and I think we've seen elements of that. And Brad, I'm sure if he was on, would be talking about Morsey and Evans are going to be a great pairing. And I think Harper might be the one who dips out, even though everybody thinks it would be Evans. But I think Cook might go with those two once Morsey served his suspension. So I think Morsey is my signing for me, because having watched the last three games, it was what we were missing. Now, that's not to say that Cook hadn't identified him before, because from what we're led to believe, he's been on the shopping list all summer, and it had to happen when if Borough signed somebody else, etc., etc. And there's lots of ifs and buts. But we have lacked that bite for exactly the reasons David's gone into, so I won't go into them again. The person who's excited me the most as an Ipswich fan has been Edwards. He's got me off my seat. That first time he came on at Burton, I was like, who is this fella? This is not what we've been used to over the last 5, 6, 7 years. I'm trying to think. The last player was possibly Selena, who got me, maybe Ryan Fraser, who got me off my feet, made me feel something could happen, could get us 30 yards up the pitch with one little run of exciting burst of pace or skill. So Edwards is the exciting one. I think Morsey is the linchpin. The other player who has briefly been mentioned, Coulson, I think it would be amazing if we could sign him. I think he's exactly if Vincent Young stays fit and gets even fitter, and we have Coulson and KVY as fullbacks, that is just going to be lovely. I think Coulson was my man of the match on Saturday gone. And his dad was saying, I know Mark referred to that earlier on, basically that he's only 70-80% fit, and he's living in a hotel. He's just got over COVID. If that's what he's doing now, if he gets up to speed and he stays fit and gets confident, he's going to rip the season up. It's quite exciting. I mean, I agree with Macaulay Bonne as well. He's a surprise package for me. I didn't know much about him. I thought Piggott was going to be the man, but Bon was strutting when he scored the 2. He looked fantastic. I can't wait to see. And we haven't even mentioned people like Edmondson. He's the fridge who we haven't seen play yet. He could be the next Jason DeVos or the next Tony Mowbray. They're big names to fill. Don't get me wrong. But he could grow with us for the next 3 or 4 years. Gareth McCauley, somebody like that, Edmondson and Burgess have got the makings to be our centre halves for the next 3 to 5 seasons. That's exciting. And then I've been a bit I was excited when we signed Fraser. And again, I've been a little bit underwhelmed by him. I think he hasn't quite found his gap yet. And maybe his gap's already been filled. But then we've got Connor Chaplin. This guy was playing in the Championship for Barnsley, who finished 5th and was one of their best. The Barnsley fans were gutted that he left, and he's dropped down. So we've got an embarrassment of riches in terms of, I've just probably named 7 or 8 players there, and that's no disservice to everybody else who we've signed, but that shows the quality and number. It's both, we often ask for quality. Like I talk about at work about quality, not quantity. Actually, what we've got here is quality and quantity, and that's a rare thing in football. Sometimes sign 7 players, and one of them might be decent, 3 average, and 3 poor. We've signed on paper 12, 13, 14 players are going to be top players for us. So, you could mention all of them. I probably have mentioned most of them, Ross. I'll stop and let James have his say.
I love that. And James, you've been able to sit back and listen to what the guys have said. And the one thing is, a lot of them are permanent as well. Like we're always used to loan deals. Like, I know Selina's a loan deal and Louis Barry's loan, Macaulay Bonnie's a loan. Hopefully one day he could be permanent. But most of them they were Championship players and we got them permanently. I'm still trying to get over Morsey. Like, I don't know how I've got him. It is because of Mark Ashton's speeches and Paul Cook. It is basically Paul Cook's love child because he's had him at Chesterfield, then Portsmouth, and now Ipswich Town. But James, take it away to end on the summer signings. What window?
I think that's we've been able to sign them permanently because we've got a good vision in place. We've got a manager who's created good relationships throughout his clubs, and we're paying top dollar wages if we're going to be honest about it. So we've put ourselves in a good position. A lot of clubs were on shoestrings this year coming out of the back of COVID, and we have gone the other way and been taken over by owners that are happy to spend that little bit more to hopefully see the reward. So we're probably one of the only big, large-scale buyers in a mainly sellers market. But anyway, on to the signings. Thanks very much, John, for mentioning the whole squad in your favourite players that we could have that we've signed this summer. I've written two players which I thought are our best signings for, and this is before I've seen them play, and I have now seen them play, so I've changed my mind a little bit. But as John said, I'm going to stick with what I've said. I've put down 2 players which have surprised me. Maybe because I didn't know their back history, and then I have seen them play. And then 2 players I'm a little worried for in the squad that might get a little lost. So the best 2 were League One players, Joe Piggott, Scott Fraser. This was just because they did it last season. I saw them play for their clubs. So I saw Joe Piggott play for Wimbledon, saw Scott Fraser play for MK Dons, and I was really impressed by them. And I've seen them on highlights and I was really impressed by them. And then I saw when we were linked with them and I saw their stats and it continued to impress me. So to actually get those deals over the line, it just made me think these are players that have done it in our league. And I feel that you need a good quality and caliber of player that can do it in this league. And we said, we said with other players we might have signed, they're a bit lightweight or they're good passers, but they're better. They'd be better in the Championship than in League One, which I don't quite buy. But I think it's good that we've brought in League One experience where they have scored goals and created chances and made assists in teams which, Wimbledon struggled for relegation and Joe Piggott scored 20 goals, which is just outrageous. So if we can't make good use of him, then I don't know what we're doing wrong. And the same with Scott Fraser, and a good MK Don side, making loads of chances. So those two I was super delighted that we've signed. It goes without saying that the boys on deadline day are just different gravy. It's kind of it was dreamland territory. We all were crying. By this time, we were all crying out for a defensive midfielder. We all thought we're just going to make do with what we've got. But to be fair, we'd signed 18 players, so let's not get greedy. And then we bring in a championship central defensive midfielder that is Paul Cook, has been Paul Cook's captain. It's just, you couldn't ask for a better fit for the kind of position that we needed. It's got to be the number one choice for what Paul Cook would have wanted, because he's got a good relationship with the player. It's exactly the player which, as fans watching on the pitch, is what we're crying out for. And I think that's just an excellent signing all round. And I presume we've pulled up mountains to try and get that one over the line. But anyway, that's a little bit of a sidetrack. He wasn't even in my my list. So my two players that surprised me, Edwards. I mean, how can you not be surprised by him? He just runs forward with the ball, and hopefully Chelina will do that as well. But you need players that can run at defences, scare defences. He looks like he's going to win a penalty every time he enters the box because he's got a bit of trickery, and he'll look like he's going to cross the ball, and then he'll take on another man, which is just an excellent trait to have. So hopefully he doesn't do that thing that most wingers do and have a few good games and then fade off into nothing. So far, incredibly impressed. And the other one that surprised me is, of course, the Ipswich lad, Macaulay Bonne. I just think he's been such a powerful presence up front, playing up front on his own. He has looked so up for playing for Ipswich Town beyond belief. And it is just every kid's dream that grows up in the area to play up front and play at Portman Road and score goals in the net. So I honestly think that he's just living out his dream at the moment, and he is putting every ounce of effort into it, and it's really paying off because we're seeing what a good player he can be as well. So those two are my two surprise picks, which I hadn't really heard too much about before they came into the club, and then I've seen them play and I've been really impressed with them. And then the two that I'm a little worried about. So I think it's got to be Aluko. It's a bit of a weird one. It's a bit of a crazy one. Everybody else seems to have bought in with the future in mind, and yet he's been brought in for kind of the experience, maybe. That's the only kind of straw I can clutch at. When he's been on the pitch, I think he's looked incredibly unfit. Some of the rest of our squad have also looked unfit in the last 20 minutes of games, but let's save that for another podcast. But he came on, ran for 2 minutes, and then didn't track back. Just looks like he was blowing. So I'm hoping that he'll get slightly better when he gets up to full fitness, or I hope he has more fitness in him. But I'm worried for him because of the embarrassments of riches we have up front now. We have so many other players which can play in those positions. So I feel like he could be the one that's often dropping out of the squad. And then the final player I want to mention, which I'm a little bit worried for as well, is our first choice keeper that we brought in, Hladky. We brought him in as a number one, and now he's very, very quickly seems to have dropped instantly to a number two. And that's not going to be good for the lad, because probably a goalkeeper more than anybody else in the world plays on confidence and needs confidence. And if he's been brought in and potentially been promised to fight out for the number one, and then instantly is probably going to get dropped, and then, well, who knows? But I'm just a little worried for him because he hasn't had the best start. He's played well in patches, but it's really been some of the goals he's conceded that has just really let us down, and that costs you points at the end of the day, because we are scoring quite a few goals, but we're conceding way too many goals. So I'm glad that's a position we've also brought in another player in. I'm just worried for him because there's only one goalkeeper spot on the pitch, and he could find himself on the bench for the majority of this season. And I had so much promise for him. Like, I think it was 22 clean sheets last season for Salford, and it seemed like this was the kind of keeper that we wanted, someone that was coming into their prime. I think he's 30. But he's just underwhelmed, unfortunately.
Wow. Well said as ever. And I think we pretty much covered every player, pretty much. Well, we haven't got a game, of course, this weekend because of international breaks, although we're League One. And when we dropped down to this division, we never thought we'd have to worry about international breaks. But Wickham have got players who are playing for Gibraltar, Ireland, and whatever under 21s teams. But I wanted to sort of end the podcast in any other business style. So I'm going to go to all of you guys. So any other business you want to mention about the transfer window and just looking ahead to the season. So I'll go over to you, David. Any other business, my friend?
No, not. I don't. We've covered it. Patience, passion, strategy, and I am patient, but I'm just not patient when I'm at Portman Road. I want 5-0 every week, and I'm anything else, and I'm pissed off because I'm a demanding fan.
Well, I think we'll definitely see a lot of goals, but if we can't stop conceding, we'll be seeing basically a Joe Raw sort of team. 5-4, 6-3s, and all that sort of stuff.
I don't mind. I really don't mind. I love the Joe Royal era. Absolutely cool. If we get 6-4 like that crew game, awesome. And if you've got 20 goals from whoever our new Tommy Miller is and Coochie and Ben, if we've got that going this season, absolutely fine. As long as we don't also end up finishing third and fucking up the playoffs. That bit of it, I'm not keen on. No, I'm quite happy with we're going to score one more than you. That's fine. It's just that if we're going to score one more than you and then they keep scoring one more than us, that's where it goes tits up. And I mean, I'm happy actually to see a new goalkeeper. I didn't mention it earlier because for me, I'd not heard of him before particularly, but when I think he has made errors, I don't think he's an upgrade on Holy. He has different problems. He's got soft hands, whereas Holy can't get down to either side because he's 8 foot tall, and his legs don't bend. So Holy's got a big grin and he can do that bit, but he can't do the sides. For me, they're much of a muchness. They just have different fadings. So I'm pleased that they've acted quickly to do that one because I think it could, if we'd have stayed with an okay keeper, it could have cost us across the season. It could be the difference between being second, being first, and being third.
Well said. And of course, another former player that Paul Cook's worked with before. Of course, Walton was at Wigan for 2 years and has won promotion from this division. So there we go. Mark, over to you. It's been great to have you on the show as ever. Any other business?
No, thank you very much for the invite. I think, it's like a massive jigsaw puzzle. All the pieces are there now. Somebody's just got to put those pieces together. I did listen to Radio Suffolk on the weekend, and Mick Mills made a very good point, and he did say that the coaching team alongside Paul Cook are very inexperienced, and neither of them have any first-team experience. That's a nagging doubt at the back of my mind. I'm going to give Paul Cook the benefit of the doubt. I think he's got a terrific track record. I hope he can replicate what he's done with previous clubs and put all these fantastic players together into a formidable, winning, entertaining, exhilarating side, and make Portman Road a real place of joy on a Saturday for the fans. But I still have that nagging doubt about that coaching team that work alongside him and behind him, because I do know that a lot of it is down to delegation, and he can't do everything. I hope that they're up to the job, and I hope that they can provide a well balanced side that will entertain us, but can also manage games and close them out when necessary.
Wow, and I think that's a good point as well. Yeah, as I said, although John McGrill's still about. I think he's just got to get the Swindon sort of thing sorted, because I think there's things going on there. But John McGrill, he lives around the corner from Paul Cook, so you never know. But John, any other business, my friend?
Just to say that I've absolutely loved being back at Portman Road and meeting people and the atmosphere. Somebody messaged me earlier on to say the West Birds goal, you can see me and Bono, or Matt as we like to know him as, celebrating in the corner when he scored on Saturday, and it's just been great to be at live football again. So for me, Paul Cook's talked about this being almost like pre-season up to now. If that's what we want to take it out as, and the season starts from now, let's go with that. because I've loved it and I'm optimistic. I try to be an optimistic person. I try to see the good in things. But the game changer had changed our club for the better. We've got really good players. We've got a manager with experience of success in this league. I just hope and hope that it all doesn't go wrong somehow, because that would be an Ipswich thing to do. But we've got all the ingredients now. Let's just make it happen and let's get behind them every game. I agree with David. Like, people can slag each other off and that kind of thing. David supports Ipswich Town and supports the players of Ipswich Town, but if somebody doesn't play well, he'll call that out afterwards. I didn't agree with everything David said after the game, and we chatted about that. But that's not to say his opinion's wrong, because he was at the game, he commented on the players, and that's your entitlement. But let's get behind the team. Let's give.
I was called out, John, on Twitter about that, because, and my point was, and I said to you this after the game, I'll do that. You express your opinion. When they're on the pitch, I will cheer absolutely everything, including when you're sort of like under Mick. All you need is one little spark, and I'll be on my feet because I want them to do well. But at the end of the game, I'll say my piece, and that's what I said on social media when I was challenged about it. It's absolutely because we all read the game different. We all like different formations and stuff, and I would never pick on a player. And I think that sometimes when people have picked on Kenlock, Hyam, Matt Richards got a huge amount of grief for ages, which was really unjustified because he was a good player. That's out of order. You don't pick on your own, and you don't ever pick on a player during a game. But after the game,
ultimately, we want our boys to do well. It doesn't matter who's wearing the shirt. You want the team to win. So, I'm optimistic, Ross, and I really want. I don't think I've wanted us to be a success quite as much as I really want us to have a successful season now. It's almost like I believe in Ashton. I believe in the Three Lions. I believe in like what we're trying to do. So it matters even more, because I didn't fully believe in Evans' 5.17.14 average plan, because it just felt like white noise. And like, I actually really think they're trying to do things right, and the players are going to try their best. We've got this great team in front of us, a great squad assembled. I just hope it works out, and I'm going to do all I can to get to as many games as I can and cheer them on. So that's my any other business. Come on, you Blues!
Yes, John. Of course, there was sort of our counselling session every time we did game day in our houses, after games, after defeats, after goalless draws. And David, Matt Richards, what a blast from the past. Unbelievable.
I liked him too. I rated Matt Richards. I liked him. He's never going to be a world beater or anything like that, but he was a good, honest player with a nice range of passing. And he was really the first time our fan base started to have a scapegoat. And you moved on from that. And Hyam got it. He hit the bar, I think, or he had a header which could have given us a win. It was a away game. And up until that point, he'd been one of our own and all that sort of thing. Suddenly he became, he's the epitome of why we're not winning. And more recently, Kenlock's had it. And the people around me have given him grief. No, but during a game you don't. But also, Kenlock's not as bad as all of that. He got exposed repeatedly last season and the season before. There was a time when Judge was supposed to be playing in front of him, and Judge had buggered off and done his own thing because Judge was having a picnic somewhere else, because that's what Judge did. And he was left. He'd got three players coming at him, one of them with the ball. He's like, which one do I mark? Because there was nobody near him. And the ball went into the net, and everyone went, well, that's Kenlock. But it wasn't. It was because he didn't have the cover. Kenlock has never learned. He defends well, but then he turns back into trouble. Rather than just doing a Wilson or something like that and clearing it, he then turns back to goal and loses the ball. He does the same thing over and over again. He's never learned. But he's at heart, he's basically a decent defender who needs to learn certain simple things. Is he Coulson? No, he's not. He's not as good as Coulson. But he's still one of our own, and we shouldn't be turning on him during a game any more than we should Matt Richards. And it bothers me that we pick on somebody, whether it's Chambers or Matt Richards or whoever it is, during a game, and you boo. I mean, Jonathan Douglas got booed coming on. Now that's not on. You can not applaud them when they get brought on as a substitute or something like that, or there are different ways of doing it, but you don't boo your own players ever.
Well said. And James, over to you then. Any other business as we wrap up another brilliant fan social?
Yeah, so I just wanted to just mention something probably a little bit away from the football, and it's but Mark Ashton has done a fantastic job, but his job is not over, and now the transfer window is shut. I'm hoping that what we're going to see over the next few months is him pivoting his attention to everything else around the club. So the stuff around the community, making people stay around the ground on a match day. I know they did a lot at Bristol in that regard to making it kind of monetizing it a little bit more, but also making it a way nicer place to be as part of the community. Somewhere you'd want to bring your kids, which is brilliant. Like what we're doing with the fan zone is fantastic. But I feel like stuff like that could be strengthened. Community partnerships with businesses around the town, with organizations and groups around the town. I think that is going to be his job until the next transfer window. And if his transfer business is anything to go by, then it's going to be a very good success as well. But I'm kind of looking forward to that as his next things on his to-do list after he's had a couple of beers and maybe a couple of good nights sleep.
Definitely. And of course, we've still got the wait for the Americans to come over whenever they can. I'm sure they're going to have a month of exploring Suffolk and to go into the games. And I'm sure
they'll probably wait until we've won until they come over.
Yeah, I think that would be best. And of course, we'll be back next week for the Fan Social, looking ahead to the Bolton game. It will be weird this Saturday for all of us. Even if you weren't able to go to the games, you still listen to it on the radio or whatever. But it'll be weird Saturday. No game for us to watch. I'll be just looking at the other League One teams who are playing League Two. I think it's the FA Cup. I think the first round of qualifying. So local teams, if you want to go to your local club, support them because it's been a tough year for them as well with COVID and stuff like that, not being able to play and getting income to support that. And talking about support, of course, the podcast is sponsored by Manscaped, and they've renewed their sponsorship. So use the code KOA to get 20% off and free delivery at manscaped.com. And also a new Warzy as well. You Never Lost at Home that is going to be starting in September. Well, we're in September now. The 16th of September to the 9th of October at the new Warzy. Of course, the brand new musical on from Peter Rowe, doing basically Bobby Robson's amazing UEFA Cup winning team. And buy tickets now because they're available at the newwarzy.com website.
Looking forward to seeing that, Ross. I saw the previous one, Our Blue Heaven, and it was really good. So if that's anything to go by, then I'm really looking forward to the follow up. So
yeah, well, hopefully I wasn't able to watch the previous one you mentioned. I think it just escaped my mind when it came out, and I just never got opportunity to watch it. But I want to watch this one, so I look forward to that. John, Mark, David, and James, thank you very much for joining me. Bloomers as well, thank you. Unfortunately, had to go away because the internet was rubbish. But yeah, another great edition of the Fan Social. If you want to get involved, get in contact at Kings of Anglia, at Ross Media UK on Twitter. It's always good to get different voices on the podcast, and also build our community because currently we have 18 part of our community, so we're getting close to the 19 signings, just like the town side. But there we go. We'll be back next week. Of course, the main pod will be back also next week, talking about not a game, but we'll find out things to talk about anyways. I've been Ross, and see you next time. Bye for now.